Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Does it sound okay for everyone? All good? Ilya, already have. Hopefully, I'm saying your name correctly, right? Ilya.
Yes, Ilya. Hey, guys.
Oh, perfect. Hi, welcome. So we still have people joining. So we always take a couple of extra minutes to get started. This generally hits like 12:45 and we get more people in. Already have a few people here. But Ilya, I'm super glad to have you. I know you're super busy, so you putting these 45 minutes in your calendar really means a lot to me, to the program, and hopefully to our participants. How are you feeling today?
All good. Thanks a lot for inviting. And very happy to share stories, answer questions.
Yeah. I'm very, very curious. I mean, Julio, who made the intro, spoke highly of you. And from my understanding, you have a really important role at Wise. So I'm very curious to know. You have a very particular responsibility from my assessment of your background. So I'm ridiculously curious to hear those stories. I think they'll be incredibly formative for me as well. Just to give you a bit of context, and actually, this is the first lunch and learn for everyone in the November program. So I'm going to give a bit of an extra intro. In the next ones, I'll probably won't need, but this is going to be for you, Ilya, and for everyone. And welcome everyone joining now. Welcome to the first lunch and learn of November. This is the part of the program where we bring guests like Ilya, industry leaders, experienced product people to share their processes, their stories, the way that product is built in the real world, ideally to validate what we teach on the Monday sessions. Now, I have no idea what Ilya is going to answer my question, so we haven't arranged anything. So if he says stuff that goes hand in hand with what I teach, that's great. If he doesn't, that's even better because we learn different things, which is great as well. And I usually say this is for you to get. This is as much of an opportunity for our participants, but also for me. I get to learn. You're probably my 46th, 47th guest in the last 2 years. So there's golden nuggets across the board. I always learn in these sessions. So I'm really humbled that you took the time. I really appreciate. This is why we run these sessions. And I'm inviting everyone to drop questions in the chat. You don't need to worry about the chat. I manage that. I'll bring participants contextually to the stage, the virtual stage, to ask questions. I also have my own. We start with them, but bring your questions. I think that's what makes these sessions unique. All right. We all ready to get started? All good? Ilya, you ready on your side? Oh,
yeah,
perfect. All right. So again, thank you very much for your time. I would love, by the way, this is recording to share internally only with our participants. We have some people who can't join. So we share the sessions and we upload them. I'm happy to send the session to you as well if you want to share with anyone. This is the reason why we're recording. Okay. Let's get started. So Ilya, again, thank you very much for being here. I'm very, very curious about your background. So tell us a bit about yourself, introduce yourself. Why should people listen to you?
I don't know. Hopefully the experience can be helpful, but let me do a quick intro. So as you said, my name is Ilya. I'm currently a product lead at Wise. So I don't know how well you know Wise as a company.
Tell us a bit about Wise.
Yeah, so Wise is the financial services company, is around 10 years old. What we do is like historically we've launched as the international money transfer company that like offered much lower fees and very high level of transparency. But like overall, we're not only focusing on the fees and transparency, we also like iterating and focusing really a lot on the speed and on the convenience of money transfers. But like right now, not only that, we also offering multi-currency accounts, local bank details in all the countries. So you can think about this as for consumers and for businesses, you can open the bank account that works as local in any market. And what I'm currently doing at Wise is I'm leading from the product side, what we call servicing tribe. So it's all the teams that are working closely with operations. So it's customer support, it's financial crime prevention. So like the teams that are stopping pirates from using Wise, know your customers, essentially the teams who would collect the documents from the people and verify and make sure that we know enough information about the customers to be able to stop the pirates on one side, but also follow the regulations and and then like recently more with the finance and treasury, essentially everything that kind of helps the machine run. Just like looking a little bit back, I think I've been in product for a little bit more than 10, like maybe 12 years. So like by education, I'm a physicist and mathematician. Then kind of I realized that there is not much I could do in physics, and try to figure out what can be like what I can do, what is would be interesting and like I can do well. So I've tried design, I've been a software engineer for a little bit, I've been fired as a software engineer. And then from that, I went into analytics, and then from analytics into the product management. I worked in the companies that were building mobile banks at Russia. We at like later on in this company, we've built like one of the first neobanks in Russia, so something like N26 on Monza. It failed, like because it's been in Russia in 5 years before Monza and N26. Then worked at Yandex, which is kind of a Russian Google, and then it has like inside Russian Uber, Russian Deliveroo, Russian PayPal, like Russian Google Maps, like essentially everything. So I worked at the wallet company, like wallet department there, which called Yandex Money. And then been at Wise for the last 7 years and touched like really a lot of different parts here. So cards, payments, then build up with the team our issuance, so all the cards, and for the last 2 years, like shifted in this operations area.
So I think the diversity of experiences you have building product is amazing. I'm super curious to hear your answers to my questions and our participants' questions based on that experience. I think it's going to be a trove of stories. I can only imagine what going through the Yandex experience might have been. And even at Wise, I mean, you have such a cool role on the crime prevention. I love the fact that you frame it as pirates, which is actually true. It is true. We never see it that way, but it's actually true. So I think that's really cool. Appreciate your introduction. I think for me at least, and I bet for everyone, I'm very confident, trusting everything you're going to say. So now we pass that part. I usually start this conversation with a belief, and I'm going to ask you whether you think I'm right or wrong, and that kind of segues into my first question. And that belief is that the role of a PM changes almost as much as the company and the product change over time. So the ones that adapt the best to that change are the ones more likely to win. So am I right? Am I wrong? And my first question is kind of what's the role of a PM in a company for you, given your experience?
Good. I think it is right. And I will explain through like the way how I am understanding like the PM role, and then like link it back why I think what you say is right and like correct framing. So like the way how I'm thinking about product managers, and like every time when I'm kind of like interviewing the people for the product manager role, product leader roles, and so far, I'm thinking about this kind of a product manager story. I don't know how much of you have like this, like hero story. Is like essentially the story, the idea that like all the books and all the narratives and all the myths that we have around the world is like are the same in terms of the structure, and in the same spirit, like anything that product managers are doing are having the same structure. So you have this like steps that product manager is responsible for. Really, one is like really have a good understanding of the problem that that the team is trying to solve, like really kind of making sure that it's connected to the customers, it's real problem, this is the big problem. We are not delusional as a team in understanding that problem. So this is one. Then second, kind of coming up with the formalism on understanding how well we are progressing with that problem, essentially setting up the metrics, and then like have the way to kind of a ruler that can then measure and like objectively say, are we progressing? Are we getting better or not? Like, is what we are launching or fixing or improving in the product actually moves what we think is important? So like measuring stuff. Then the next thing is like having the relationship with the teams and understanding the team skills to be able to kind of brainstorm together with them all the possible ways how the team can progress with solving this problem. It's like, okay, like what we can do, what skills we have, what we can deliver, what we are like maybe missing as well. It's like, what is the set of the possibilities? And then selecting one or two most promising things. So it's like this ability to brainstorm and then prioritize what needs to be done. So this is the number 3. And number 4 is actually, when you kind of selected this, is helping the team to execute this. Is like making sure that there is a plan, you know, the shortest critical path. If engineers or designers or anyone like bankers, like whoever got blocked, you help them to get unblocked, you help them with this kind of a problem solving and like pushing this through and getting it out to the customers. And then cycle repeats, right? So you find the biggest problem, you come up with the way how you measure the progress, you come up with the best way to move forward, you execute, you push it out, and you repeat. It's like over and over and over again. And then just like looping it back to what you asked initially. So the problems are like, if the company is successful, the product is successful, you always solving bigger and bigger problems, and they kind of change over time. And then the product manager need to have this like ability to change the context and ability to evolve and like grow with the growth of the problems. But then there's, on the other side, this kind of a core part of the cycle of identifying them stays. And I think it's like more or less the same across like all product managers and all the companies, and actually engineers, analysts, and like everyone who is solving problems.
I completely empathize with your answer, especially on the size of the problem is growing, and more experience you become, the more comfortable you become, kind of you're going to be challenged with a bigger problem. Oftentimes it's actually better to be challenged with a bigger problem and just more products. I think it makes you evolve much in a better direction as a PM. I have a kind of a small follow-up, which is, do you have any example of like in the beginning of your career at Wise, what was a problem that you're solving for, and now how did that problem grew? Like how did that problem became bigger as you progressed in your career? Do you have an example?
Yeah. So like when I've joined Wise, just to set the context, I think I've been like around 400 employee. Now we are like above 4,000 people, most like getting
10x.
closer to 5,000. And then like volume wise, at that time, we just, I think, recently passed first billion pounds converted volume, like overall throughout the whole history. Like right now, like the volume per month is like around 8-9 billion that we converted. So just the
That's scale. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I've joined to do at Wise, I was a product manager. I think like in our current terms, it's like an associate product manager for the cards team, the PIN team, essentially making sure that the people using Wise are able to fund those international money transfers with their cards of their banks. So it's like just merchant acquiring, like a checkout page in the normal, like any e-commerce business. And when I've joined, it's been 2 engineers and myself, right? So there's been the team. And inside like that, the team, like right now, it's like, what was that team? It's had grown right now in to what we call squads. So there is like multiple teams that are working on the cards processing right now. It's like really large. Like I cannot disclose the numbers, but it's really, really large part of the total transaction, total volume that is funding, and it's like accepting the card payments around the world with a very high cost efficiency, speed efficiency, making them instant, and making them kind of like accepted well. So we have like 3 teams working on this today. But then from that team, we also spinned off issuance. So like producing our own cards. And it's also a rather interesting story is because like essentially what we've been doing, we've been looking at the NPS comments of the customers. Is like essentially what customers were saying about cards. And we were thinking about those cards payment experience, but what they were saying is actually, it's like okay to pay with the cards, but like we would want to have your card there. And from that we say, oh, we will spin off issuance, which is on its own entire different scenes. And it's it's right now, I think we are like among the most advanced in terms of cards issuance processing companies in the world. We got the licenses with Visa and MasterCard. We have millions of customers using our cards monthly. We have been the first who built the cloud processing and cloud integration with the schemes. And this is like very, very exciting and big part of Wise right now, this kind of cards issuance. So, and that's kind of grown from those 3 people sitting in the room and like trying to figure out like what to do to accept card payments.
No, it's crazy to see the scale and the evolution. And I have another comment, and maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of the work that you're doing is not only super important for the ability of Wise to operate, but it's oftentimes very invisible. Like customers don't actually see it. Actually, when they see it, is for a wrong reason. It's because something slipped. And I think this invisibility is something that a lot of people can't understand how important it is for companies. They only see the stuff that evolves and changes in front of their eyes. And I feel like you work in a lot of areas that if they fail, people will see it, but not because the product evolved, but because the product is failing. So first of all, I really enjoy having conversations with people who are doing this in the back, like invisible work, which is super important. And what I would like to know is, and a bit of a connection to my next question, which is around what companies or most companies that you've seen, maybe not Wise, but others, get wrong about the product manager role. I want to kind of bundle this with what is different working in an invisible area versus working in a visible area as a product manager. So these are 2 questions. You can answer them separately, but I'm very, very curious about both.
Got it. That's it's a good kind of a lead in, right? I think let me start with this, like interviewing the product managers, talking to their experience. It's actually quite often when the product managers like would say, I want to be closer to the customer. I want to work on something front-endy. And for me, it's like when I'm like trying to bring people to work on, like right now, especially on operations, but like even before on like card processing is like you get the person and like this person like needs to work with the team, making sure that you reconcile the amount of money that you settle with Visa or MasterCard. It's like, it can feel like really boring. And then, yeah, it's like there is a really quite substantial set of people who would say, oh, I want to be closer to the customer. And it takes, I think, sometimes and grows to realize, like, I think this the strongest people kind of at some moment of time realize that actually this like anything that the company is doing is close to the customers. Otherwise, company shouldn't be doing this. And like often the opportunity size and this chore in the background teams is higher because people love and tend to work on something front-endy, something visible, and then deprioritizing the operations. And because of that, you accumulate the opportunities there. And if you want really to solve the bigger problems, I think it's a good strategy to go in your operations and check out what's going on there. Most likely there is like it's really possible that you have like piles of opportunities and improvement that you can harvest there. But then just talking about the way how we look at this at Wise, right? So like returning to the story, what we do is like we allow people to manage their money internationally, cheap, like instant and eventually free, and kind of convenient, instant and eventually free. And like for all of those things, right? For convenience, for the speed and costs, we have the metric that we track as a company and we publish as a company. We are really open about this. And they are moving really slowly because it's like insanely hard to cut the costs, or insanely hard to move like instant transfers from, I don't know, 40% to 50%. But then like if you kind of just like roll back a little bit, those mission updates that we publish, like over time, it's like it's steady, right? We moved instant transfers from 10% to 50%, like over the time that I've been at the company. And like this change is really substantial because I don't know, it's like you might not care about international transfers, money transfers, but it's really big deal because like it's otherwise it's impossible to do on the infrastructure that existed before. It's like really big deal now, but it's very slow as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you agree with the statement. I got a manager in the past teaching me this, but if you want to grow the fastest, choose unsexy problems because they're often the most overlooked and where you can actually make a bigger dent. And I took this learning for people who wanted to transition to product. I don't know, I might ask you like, what was your way into product? You kind of explained it, but like a majority of people fall into product, they accidentally suddenly are a product manager and they were pushed from wherever they were working before. And I usually say that if you're going to go that route, pick the most unsexy, overlooked problems within a company, unlock the opportunity, and you'll see yourself fast enough becoming the PM of that without you understanding it. I don't know if you agree with this, but I think it goes very much in line with what you're saying of like opportunities in overlooked areas. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think the way how I'm formulated this is like try to pick the biggest problem, and usually what you have like the biggest problem will be much bigger than the second problem. The second problem will be much bigger than the third problem, and so on. So this question is like, okay, how like try to kind of think very hard what's the biggest problem, and then like try to focus as much energy on only one thing, because like all of the rest of the things is more or less the distraction. And then it's very common when those biggest problems would be in like lying in the unsexy areas.
Yeah.
So it's like you have a higher probability to find them there,
Yeah.
let's say.
Makes sense. So I wanna transition now to more skills, because you mentioned on your process, on the circular process of what means building product. I assume there's a lot of hats you gotta wear. Like it's not a very straightforward, this is what you do, period. It's actually a very dynamic environment. So my question is, based on your experience, what are the most important things that PMs need to know, maybe need to master, maybe 1, 2, 3 skills, maybe that you try to coach and mentor and work with your team on that make the difference to build products that really work and scale? Is there any advice you'd give for people here to develop these skills?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they kind of can be different, right? If you think about like where usually people are coming into the product managers, it's quite diverse, right? So you would have like around 20% coming from engineering, around 20% coming from analytics, 20% are coming from design experience, and then remaining 60, so like 20, 20, like 40, remaining 40% would have like very different, interesting stories, how they got in this role. And based on that background, actually, they might be stronger in one area or another, and then like it's like you would have like people with very different styles and being successful in very different ways. But like just I don't know, person coming from design have this like really good intuition on what is a good quality, and being able to say this without looking in the numbers, just like on this quality kind of understanding. Or like someone like coming from the analytical background, being able mathematically prove what is the right thing to do. So there is no answer, and I think it's more kind of like using your experience, using your strong side, using the things that you are passionate about. I saw that working very well. But then returning to the cycle, there is kind of minimal level of like couple of things that you would need to have. Like first of all, an understanding of the problem, and this is like this is the most basic and the most important thing for you guys to have in the role. And the skill that you need to have there is speaking, reading, and empathy, right? So it's like one is like talking to the customers, but then there is a fear to talk to the customers. Like there is a simpler way, in a sense, like I don't know how to step in the water easier, read customer contacts, maybe answer the calls of the customers or emails of the customer, read NPS comments. That's the simplest way to get an intuition about the problems, about what the customers care about. Just like go and read 100 contacts today, and like only thing that you need to have empathy and ability to read. That's all. For the metrics part and like ability to measurement, you would need to have some analytical skills. I think PM needs to have an understanding of how the databases operate. Like it's like from my perspective, you really need to know what SQL is and be able to write select, like basic select query. It's also simple. With V3C is like on web, there are tutorials how to do this. Like you dedicate 2 days and boom, you're an analyst in a sense, a junior one, but like an analyst. So this is needed. And then like working with the teams is like also kind of this curiosity of the other functions. So it's like what engineers are doing. Do you like, are you able to understand what service is, how they write code, what they're talking about? Maybe read the GitHub from time to time, just like trying to understand if you are not coming from the engineering background. With the designers as well, I go to Figma and see what they do. Is just like having the empathy, having like asking the questions like, well, what do you do? What's the purpose of your role? Business negotiations, like customer support, operations, like have this curiosity of other functions is really helpful for you to orchestrate those teams and like find the ideas on how to solve the problems and like help them express them, help them work together as one team. I think this is the other skill that is useful. And then in the execution part, it's that's like my really weak side is the project management skill, as like this kind of impatience of the things taking longer, ability to draw a Gantt diagram and understand what the, I don't know, what's the shortest path from where we are right now to the moment when it's launched, and then constantly asking question, okay, like what's blocking us? What's blocking us? Are we moving as fast as we can? And that's kind of this project management skill is the last part.
Yeah, I think so I'm going to take advantage of your answer to plug in that we're launching a Data for Product Managers program in January. So based on what Ilya said, I would recommend you joining that program in January. It's already live on the website. So just using this as kind of a small ad for the entire program. No, but I think what you say is completely right. And the beauty about this is like, one, I see a lot of people with this imposter syndrome of, oh, I'm good at analytics because that's maybe what I do in my current company, but can I do product? And you just said like, maybe starting with that part that you're good is actually a good differentiation on why you can add value to product. And then the rest you'll build up with time and exposure to problems. And the rest of the things you touched, negotiation, project management, empathy, being able to read, listen, speak, communicate, narrate. I think the great thing about that is there are skills that you can train yourself. It's not so much of a hard skill that you need to have formal training. You can actually expose yourself to situations and train those skills, which is great. I think it brings a lot of hope. And this is what I try to teach on my program, brings a lot of hope that anyone can become a product thinker, which then becomes a product builder and eventually a product manager. So completely agree with your answer. I hope it's good for everyone. You mentioned the one team theme, and I want to take that one to kind of go into my next question, which is team, right? You don't build things on your own. You need to have relationships with people who are actually building stuff, whether it's engineers, data, designers, anyone that orbits your environment. So my question is, how do you help your PMs, your teams, foster a really good relationship with their peers? I'm more focused on peers, then I'm going to ask stakeholders, but now I'm focused more on the peers, on the engineers, designers, data scientists, maybe anyone who's, I bet in your case, you have legal as kind of a peer as well, maybe as a stakeholder, but like what I'm focused is like on the peer side, like how to create a good relationship and what advice would you give your team to create a good relationship?
So yeah, the way how it's like working advice is we have this concept of autonomous team where you would have like all the problem space that Wise is responsible for is cut into the small pieces as like less overlapping with each other as possible. And then for each of that problem, you would have a team owning that, and that team will have a product manager. It would have like, let's say 3, 5 engineers, analysts, designer, maybe researcher, maybe banker, maybe compliance person, maybe operational partner, and so on, right? So it's like the set of the people that you have inside the team really depends on the type of the problem that you solve. Now the question is like, how do you build a relationship? So the way how we do this is like we give the autonomy to the team and responsibility, right? So you have this unit needs to figure out their culture and how they operate. Otherwise, they will not be able to progress on the problem that they own. And they are the ones that like they spend in the most of their time together, right? They interact, like majority of the time that they spend on work, they spend together. They sit like next to each other. They would have their ceremonies like stand-ups. I don't know, like the guys, like just before I started, like been doing planking over here. That's the one of the issuance team. So it's just like human relationship being close together. And then I think it's like the product managers, you like we are trying to find the people who are like calm, friendly, mature in a sense. Like I don't know, it's like how you can define this maturity, and have like and bring them to the company. At the early days, at the times when I was joining, we had this like list of the values that we have at Wise, and one of the values was exactly, sorry for my language, was saying no bitches, no assholes. It was written on the walls. That's been like early, like at this time, like our founders were running naked on the streets of London promoting the cheap fees, but like we had this kind of a rule of like, it's like we are good human being with a good intentions, and we just should be curious about the problems that we are solving and our fellows that are together with us on this journey. It's like no signs there.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. It's just about fostering trust, right? A lot of your answer leads me to believe that all of that builds trust, and with trust, people will do the best job they can. So I think it makes absolute sense. So we have Patty here with her hand up. Patty, do you want to ask a question to Ilya?
Yes, I do. It's related to what you just spoke about in terms of like communicating and like having a friendly persona and everything. I'm just wondering, like, how do you keep, like, as a product manager, how do you keep everyone aligned consistently on the same page without leaving anyone feeling like, oh, wait, I wasn't looked in on this little detail because I would have helped them? Like, how do you constantly keep that without, I guess, feeling overwhelmed?
It's like sometimes you are you are feeling overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and like sometimes you are not aligned as well. I think is like it's like for everyone, like I this year I started getting my first gray hairs. I think it's also a skill for PM to like to be able to kind of like relax and understand that like those types of things and like changing their relationship and like changing the like understanding of some stuff takes time, and meditating helps a lot. I don't know, it's like its answer is like answering the second part when it doesn't work, but then like it's like how to make this work. It's like I'm once again returning to the first, like the things that I was talking in the beginning, understanding the problem very well and explaining this to the team very well, right? If you read like 100 comments from the customers and you write the summary and you show the exact words, it's like sometimes like it's like really like you feel the pain of those people using the product, and you bring it and you show to the people. They're like, hey guys, this is the situation, that's where we are. And like this helps to build alignment very well. Metrics helps to build alignment very well. If you have a dashboard, like you understand, oh, we are working on, I don't know, contact reduction, or we are working on volume increase, and this is how this chart works. Those are the components. Like, and everyone understand this, then like you will be aligned.
Okay. And sorry, there's another question that's
Yeah, go for it.
It's so in terms of like, because you most of the time you're working remotely, right? And of course, with as somebody who's like English is not your first language, in terms of like written communication is completely different from like verbal communication. How do you constantly keep like your written communication to a standard where like everyone can understand things as well?
Mm-hmm. So I personally prefer working from the office. It's like I'm here right now, and I'm traveling a lot as well to see people in other locations. Like Wise right now it's like 10, 15 locations.
Yeah.
I I think you really need to see your team in person, like at least once a quarter. Spend a week together, working in one place. We have like a hybrid work setup at Wise. We advise all the teams actually to work 2 days at least from the office together. We see a lot of team. I think majority of the teams are preferring to actually come to the office and work together, because I think it's like it's more effective. But then like those guys who are working remotely, they would just like travel and meet with each other once a quarter, just to keep this like chemistry in place.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty, for the questions. On your first one, I really enjoyed the first question, and on the overwhelm, the way I try, like, and Ilya, I don't know if you agree with me, but I try to escape the overwhelming feeling, and I've failed successfully every time. So I just turn it around and start thinking, maybe if I'm picking the right things and I'm overwhelmed, then that means I'm being ambitious. And that's my half full glass approach at feeling overwhelmed. The second part, and I completely agree, I haven't yet mastered meditation. I'm still having a very tough time like convincing myself that I need to meditate, but the way I put it is like taking care of your mental health. It's a really big deal when you are working product. So agree with what you said. Whatever works for anyone to help make your mind calmer really makes a big difference when you're feeling overwhelmed. That's how I try to convince myself. Ilya, I have
Meditation,
yeah,
sports, hobby.
agree. Whatever keeps you sane, go for it. Becomes more important the closer you are to product. Agree. I want to ask, I usually ask, like, there's two questions that are fixed for all my guests, and I'm going to give a bit of a segue, a bit of a leeway for you to think, but this story is about crazy stories or war stories. Some people like to call it war stories. I usually like to get to people's minds, my guests' minds back in the day, and pick like a weird, out of the way, like interesting story from your time managing product that really paints the picture of the things you might see if you end up building products. Like, is there anything you want to highlight from your experience that was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this to happen to me as a product manager? Is there any particular story?
Yeah, this is interesting question. It's like just thinking about like something that can be useful, and like a lot of things happened, right? When this like neobank startup was failing, like, and a lot of startups like failing, and at some moment of time, like the team stopped receiving the salaries from the founders, like including myself and essentially you as a product manager. At that time we had like 10 engineers, like 2 product managers, and there is like kind of people like legitimately worried what's going on. And then I, as a product manager, I kind of like then like participated, like gathered all those thoughts and like come to the founder, said like, what what the hell is going on, like what we are doing with this. And I got like 2 founders giving me 2 pieces of feedback. One founder said, you are supposed to slow down, like essentially to kind of like suppress the rebellion instead of leading this. Like, and the second founder giving me advice, I saw you recently got a car, why are you not a taxi like doing taxi driving? So those are the pieces of feedback I didn't like really expect it to receive as a product manager. So it's been an interesting experience. But I think Yeah, it's like you learn really a lot about how people operate, what they care about and stuff, changing their opinion. But just to kind of, I think, I don't know. I might go in this kind of recent example of like something that is more useful and more productive, let's say. Right now we are working on with Julia. Actually, Julia is driving this work on the contact. So we have like 2,000 people in customer support and operations, and we have like only a couple of teams, engineering teams that are working directly supporting support. And we are trying to solve problems like, okay, how we can reduce the demand for support, and really really the way how we think about this is there are like the problems about which customers are contacting us are exactly the same problems for which people are leaving company and leaving Wise. And like every single team out of 100 teams that we have at Wise are responsible for the different pieces of the experience on the like some part of those customer support contacts. And I think we've come up with something very smart right now, and we see a lot of traction right now. It's like, okay, how you convince like 100 teams to focus on the contacts, on not sexy part in a sense, or like this boring part. So what we've done is like, first of all, we've built a data where we allocated all the contacts to the teams. So every contact has now the owner. And then we've like done the analysis. We essentially showed like how much every single contact cost us. But what is more important is like this logic that for every contact that we have, there are hidden silent customers who are leaving the product. And we multiplied on the cost of acquisition of those customers, summed that up, and we got like a price tag for the contact, which is very high. And then we, like, when you go to those teams and you say, hey guys, you're responsible for this number of contacts per month, and then you can multiply every contact on this value that you have, you get this huge opportunity by making your product more convenient, simpler, by solving the underlying reason. You will remove the contacts for us. You will make life easier for customer support agents, but you also will help the product grow. And we like by just like reframing this problem, we managed to get like really a lot of traction in rest of the organization recently. So I think hopefully this is the useful story.
No, it is. It is. The thing I take from the story is like, yeah, you can focus when you build products on the sexier things, like the experience, the UX, like what people will read and see, the magic in the details that I normally call it. But reverting back to the actual mathematics of why you're solving the problem, the impact on a potentially P&L, on the profit and loss of the business, and how that can help the business scale or have less cost to scale, be more efficient, more effective at solving. I think those are so much more important. And I think your story kind of mirrors that. Is like, if you revert back to principles and tell the story in a specific way, you'll be actually more effective at solving the problem. I think that makes a lot of sense. So I have two more questions and I'll let you go. I think the first one, I think the last one is faster. The first one might take a bit longer, which is like, you're managing teams, right? You have squads, you have PMs that probably report to you. My question is, looking at your teams, what would you say is one or two things that differentiate a strong, delivering, performant product team from the rest? Is there anything that you see as a pattern that if this group of people eventually go into building their products, you would want them to be or act in a way that will make them performant, strong product teams?
Yeah, it's like, once again, I will repeat the same thing, right? There's like the strong teams tend to have very clear, very grounded answer on what is the problem that they're responsible for. They have a connection with the customers, being like customers or operations people. They have their metrics in place, so they would have a KPI structure. They have a dashboard that shows it real time. They have regular reviews of those metrics when those going up or down. They link the project that they've launched to the changes in those metrics. They have a strong relationship and chemistry inside the team. When you ask, I don't know, engineering lead, how does it feel to work with your product partner? He said, like, I'm I'm really in love with this person. I'm so happy to be like working together with her or with him. And then like they constantly deliver something. So we have this like mission updates, like every quarter we as a company publish everything that we've delivered for the customers, and like every team has a chance to write what they've launched. So if you see the team constantly appearing on those mission updates with the things that they've delivered, they have this cadence of launching. Like that's like how you see the strong team. And then like the weaker teams like might be lost at some place of that, and that's the kind of a role of a lead in a sense, to figure out where they kind of like can grow a little bit, and then help them either build up the metric or fix the dynamics inside the team, or help them kind of a project manage, and like I don't know, you kind of go down deep in details and help them execute, help them unblock, show them the way. So the
Yeah,
same stuff.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It's good to repeat. It means like the principles apply in different situations, and if you double down on them, you're probably going to have more impact, which is great. So we're going to go to the last question. We're basically getting to the end of our time, and I know you're busy, so I'm very appreciative of these 45 minutes. So my last question, the question I ask every single guest, it's the same one, which is, imagine you could speak with your younger self. You go to younger Ilya on the day before he starts his product career. And with the power of hindsight, you'd be able to advise him on one thing. What would that one thing be?
Yeah. I guess like I will go, sorry, with Stu. I think one like in the beginning of career, it's like important like how you learn and like having the opportunities to learn. And there's two very important drivers of this, and like it's a little bit of luck, but then one is the company where you're working at, and like you would want to find the company that is growing and having a healthy financial, and usually it correlates with the like, are they solving the real problem or imaginary, but like just like finding something that is growth, finding something with a healthy financials, so you can continue growing together with them, right? It's like it's all like you just need to stay at the same place in order to grow with them. It's one thing. And second, having a lead from whom you can learn. And this is a little bit hard to search, but like in reality, when you being interviewing and finding the company, you need to really interview this person. And when you work with someone, it's just like asking yourself is like, are you really excited about this person? Are you really kind of thinking, oh, wow, that's like, this is the divine level of knowledge, is like how amazing this person is? And if it's not, like, I think it's a signal to consider kind of trying something new, because it's just like being with those people who are insanely good as your leads just helps you really, really a lot. And it's just like pulls your experience and stuff. And like I've been couple of times incredibly lucky with having a strong leads. Maybe I didn't realize at the moment of time when it was happening, but like looking back, it's like for me it was lucky. But then like the feeling that you have is like, whoa, this person is amazing. That's what I think like can be a trigger, like can be a definition.
So I relate so much to that last part that I have a name for it. I call it person market fit, which is when you just find that person that pulls you. It's like the thing that you're saying is the same type of pull that you see with product market fit, but with people. So I couldn't agree. Surprise follow-up, would young Ilya listen to you? Or maybe not.
I don't think so.
This is the most common question I get. It's like, I don't think but hopefully everyone here listens to you. I hope that's the goal with this question. So Ilya, really appreciate. I'm not going to steal more of your time. I think your answers were really good. It really made me think a lot on my approach to how I tackle product. And I think your experience is extremely relevant. Really appreciate. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was fun for you. And I hope for everyone, this was a great session. I believe it was. We have the recordings I'm going to share in a couple of days. Again, really appreciate your time, Ilya. Keep fighting the pirate fight. I think it's extremely important, especially going in the world we're going in the future. I think it really makes a big difference. So thank you very much for being here. I hope it was worth it.
Thank you guys for listening. I wish you all luck and success. And Andre, thanks for organizing this.
This is a pleasure. This is a pleasure. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great end of week. See you on Monday again. Cheers and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. See you.